What is art? This definitely isn't a multiple choice question. Art means different things to different people. It really has no limits. Art has been debated since it was created with the question, what is art? Art is creative paintings, sculptures, acting, web design, architecture, and much more. Today we're going to talk about 7 different categories of art. One would be architecture. Another would be modern art. A third would be web design. Another would be pop culture. A fifth would be painting. Another would be sculpture. And a final would be acting. We'll start off with the most well-known form of art, painting. There are many forms of painting, but the most well-known are abstracts, landscape, and portraits. Paintings can be painted with anything that is wet. Traditionally, paintings were of nature or portraits. Over the years, paintings have evolved to be splatters of paint or even soup cans. We all know the painter Jackson Pollock, yes? What Pollock did was drip and pour fluid enamel, aluminum, and oil paint from sticks and hardened brushes over pieces of sized, unprimed canvas tacked to the floor of his studio. The practice of dripping and pouring paint was not a rabbit pulled out of a hat. Pollock had known about it for some time.
Expression of what goes on in your personal psychology. He was very introspective and interested in psychoanalysis. He was in intensive psychoanalysis and interested in painting as an expression of what was the process going on inside his own head. And he did a lot of dream analysis and played around with symbols that were in his dreams, and in a way that in and of itself was also somewhat radical in saying, I have feelings and I have dreams and I have all of these emotions, and it was a very specific rebellion against the 1940s and later 1950s image of manhood that was very conformist and very straight-laced. And he was sort of saying, no, I'm here and I'm going crazy, and look at my paintings, my head is exploding. And
By placing the canvas on the floor, Pollock could both outwit and exploit the force of gravity. He could rely on not just his arm and hand, but on the leverage of his entire body to determine where the paint would go. Let's move on to the next category, web design. Josh Ahn is a designer and programmer who sometimes does art. He created a website called theyrule.com, which was considered art by many.
I think that there's been a process of expanding what the definition of art is over the last 100 years. And I think that it becomes an interesting question because it's a political question. Because in order to do art, you also need to live, you need to make a living, you need to get some money, and there's a certain amount of money that's available to artists through grants and things, but it's only available to them if what they're doing is considered art. So it becomes a very important question to ask, like, what is art? Because your livelihood may be at stake. So these things are important political questions.
Time for our next category, pop culture. We know that guy, right? That's Andy Warhol, the Campbell Soup guy. Yeah, he also created the colorful Marilyn Monroes. Andy Warhol once said, "Don't think about making art, just get it done. Let everyone else decide whether it's good or bad, whether they love or hate it. While they're deciding, make even more art." What about theater? Time for our 4th category. Most people would say theater is an art form, like writing a novel or writing poetry. But some playwrights think theater should have a political or social function. The German playwright Bertolt Brecht once said, "Art is not a mirror held up to reality, but a hammer with which to shape it."